R&B stars who kept a secret lover until the day they died. What if some of the greatest R&B legends' voices that defined generations took their deepest secrets to the grave? Behind the fame and flashing lights were hidden romances, forbidden loves, and secret partners the public never knew existed. From whispered affairs to undisclosed soulmates, these icons lived double lives few dared to question. In this video, we uncover the hidden love stories they never shared until death revealed the truth. Get ready to see your favorite legends in a new light. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence, where the truth behind the music finally speaks. James Brown. James Brown wasn't just a musical innovator, he was a force of nature. With hits like I Got You, I Feel Good, and Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. He helped shape the identity of R&B, funk, and soul music. But while his stage persona was bold and unapologetic, Brown's private life remained shrouded in mystery. Over the years, Brown was married 3 times and publicly acknowledged several children. However, after his death in 2006 at the age of 73, at least a dozen more individuals came forward claiming to be his biological offspring. DNA testing confirmed paternity in multiple cases, exposing the extent of his private affairs. One particularly complex situation involved Tommy Ray Heine, a woman who claimed to be his 4th wife. Legal battles after his passing raised questions about whether their union was ever legally valid and whether she was entitled to his estate. Behind closed doors, Brown had long-standing romantic ties with several women who were never publicly recognized during his lifetime. Some were background singers. Others were women from outside the industry who remained loyal to him for decades. These relationships weren't just fleeting, they were deep emotional, and in some cases produced children who didn't learn the truth about their parentage until adulthood. Brown's need for control and privacy often meant that even his closest aides were unaware of the full extent of his love life. His intense travel schedule and touring lifestyle allowed him to maintain separate relationships in different cities. Despite his public persona as a showman, James Brown guarded many personal truths until the end. The depth of these hidden romances only became evident after his death, painting a fuller, more complex portrait of a man whose legacy extended far beyond the stage. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke, revered as the King of Soul, was more than a musical genius. He was a trailblazer for Black artists in the recording industry. Known for timeless hits like A Change Is Gonna Come and Cupid, he used his smooth voice to bridge gospel and R&B influencing generations. But behind his polished image was a personal life marked by secrecy and unanswered questions. Though publicly married to Barbara Campbell, with whom he had 3 children, Cooke's romantic life was far more complex than what fans saw. Rumors of extramarital affairs circulated throughout his career. He was charismatic, charming, and constantly on the road, an environment ripe for hidden romances. Some alleged partners were dancers or aspiring singers. Others were never identified publicly. These relationships were quietly accepted by those in his inner circle, though rarely discussed in public. His death in December 1964 at the Hacienda Motel in Los Angeles added further intrigue. Shot by the motel manager. Bertha Franklin under suspicious circumstances, Cooke's killing sparked theories involving a woman named Elisa Boyer, who was reportedly with him that night. Though the official ruling declared it a justifiable homicide, questions lingered particularly about the role his personal entanglements may have played in the incident. After his passing, whispers about secret lovers resurfaced. Former colleagues later suggested that Cooke may have been involved with multiple women who were kept hidden due to industry expectations and his family image. Despite his success as a businessman founding Sayar Records and managing his own publishing rights, his romantic world remained tightly guarded. Sam Cooke's artistry was legendary, but the private corners of his heart remained elusive. Only after his untimely death did the public begin to grasp the complexity of the man behind the music. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin's voice changed music forever. With commanding songs like Respect Chain of Fools and Think, she redefined what soul music could express, especially for women. While she reigned on stage, her personal world remained fiercely protected even from those closest to her. Franklin was married twice, first to Ted White, her former manager with whom she had a son, and later to actor Glynn Turman. Both marriages ended in divorce, but it was her post-divorce relationships that drew quiet speculation. Chief among them was Willie Wilkerson, her longtime companion. Though she once announced an engagement to him in 2012, it was later called off. The two remained close, and many believed theirs was a lifelong, if unorthodox, romantic bond. Beyond Wilkerson, Aretha was rumored to have kept other intimate relationships out of the public eye. She gave birth to her first child at just 12 years old, and another at 14, facts that raised eyebrows but were rarely discussed openly. She never publicly named the fathers of those two sons, adding further layers of mystery to her early love life. Unlike many of her peers, Franklin rarely addressed gossip. She was notorious for her demand for privacy, even refusing to fly, and often controlling press access meticulously. After her death from pancreatic cancer in 2018, multiple men came forward claiming to have shared a deep connection with her, though none were officially verified by her estate. Franklin's guarded romantic history stood in contrast to the raw emotional honesty in her music. Her ballads were often about heartbreak, longing, and empowerment, mirroring perhaps what she chose not to say out loud. In the end, her ability to love deeply was etched not into tabloid headlines, but into the unforgettable lyrics she left behind. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye. The voice behind soul masterpieces like What's Going On, Let's Get It On, and Sexual Healing was a man of deep emotional contrasts. His music exuded sensuality and vulnerability, but his personal life was a battlefield of inner torment, complex relationships, and guarded secrets. Publicly, Gaye's romantic life was tumultuous. He married Anna Gordy, 17 years his senior, and sister of Motown founder Berry Gordy, in 1963. Their marriage was riddled with emotional and financial strain, eventually collapsing in 1977. His second marriage to Janice Hunter, with whom he had 2 children, was also rocky, marked by infidelity, drug use, and volatility. Yet these known relationships only scratched the surface of Gaye's hidden world. Throughout his career, rumors swirled about unacknowledged lovers, both women and men. While Gaye never publicly identified as bisexual, close friends and biographers have alluded to clandestine same-sex relationships, as well as a number of long-term affairs with women that were kept entirely out of public view. These relationships often remained shrouded in secrecy due to the strict expectations placed on male R&B stars, especially in the hyper-masculine world of Motown. His personal diaries and posthumous biographies hint at a man who struggled profoundly with identity shame and spiritual conflict. Some even suggest his emotional vulnerability and self-doubt were shaped in part by love affairs that he felt compelled to hide. Tragically, Marvin Gaye's life was cut short in 1984 when he was shot by his father just one day before his 45th birthday. To the world, he was a musical prophet, but to those closest to him, Marvin Gaye was a man with aching truths buried beneath his legendary voice. Truths about forbidden love, misunderstood desire, and secrets he took with him to the grave. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's voice captivated millions with soaring ballads like I Will Always Love You, Greatest Love of All, and Saving All My Love for You. Her rise to global superstardom was meteoric, her vocal talent unparalleled. But beneath the applause and awards, Houston carried a deeply private, emotional life that the public only began to understand after her passing. In 1992, she married R&B singer Bobby Brown, a union that became a media spectacle for over a decade. Their relationship was filled with turbulence, substance abuse allegations of violence, and personal struggles that overshadowed much of Houston's later career. But even as their story played out in headlines, another narrative unfolded quietly behind the scenes. Robin Crawford, Whitney's best friend and assistant since their teenage years, was long rumored to be much more. In 2019, Crawford broke decades of silence, confirming their romantic relationship in her memoir, A Song for You. According to Crawford, the relationship began when they were young and was intense, loving, and formative. However, it was also cut short due to pressures from Whitney's family image consultants and the homophobic constraints of the music industry in the 1980s. Whitney never publicly acknowledged the relationship, but those close to her say it remained one of the deepest emotional bonds of her life. After their romantic connection ended, the two remained close. Crawford stayed by her side as a confidant and protector for years. Whitney passed away on February 11, 2012, at the age of 48, just hours before the Grammy Awards. Her legacy lives on in her music, but the truth of her heart only fully emerged after death. The world lost an icon, but it also lost a woman whose greatest love story may have been one she never felt free to sing out loud. Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross was a master of love ballads celebrated for timeless classics like Never Too Much So Amazing and Dance With My Father. His velvety tenor became the soundtrack for countless weddings, heartbreaks, and romantic moments. Yet while his lyrics explored love with emotional depth, Vandross kept his own love life entirely out of the public eye, a mystery he carried until his final days. Despite being in the spotlight for over 2 decades, Vandross was never seen with a partner in public and never confirmed any romantic relationships. Unlike many of his R&B contemporaries, he managed to shield his private world from tabloids, fueling long-standing speculation about his sexual orientation. Close friends and some industry insiders later suggested that Vandross was a closeted gay man who feared the backlash of coming out during an era when such revelations could derail a career, especially in the conservative soul and gospel-influenced communities. He poured his emotions into music instead. Songs like Here and Now and If Only for One Night carried a vulnerability that suggested personal experience, though he never explained the source. Vandross often said he wanted to be loved, but declined to name anyone special in his interviews, instead focusing on his art and his mother, who was a major figure in his life. In 2003, Vandross suffered a debilitating stroke that left him unable to perform. His health continued to decline, and he passed away in 2005 at the age of 54. Even in death, no romantic partner came forward. His legacy remains tied to love, but his own romantic chapter remains unwritten in public record. For a man whose voice defined intimacy for millions, Luther Vandross's most intimate truth, who he loved, was something he chose never to reveal. Ray Charles. Ray Charles Robinson. Better known as Ray Charles, was a musical pioneer whose blend of R&B, jazz, gospel, and blues birthed the genre known as soul. With immortal songs like Georgia on My Mind, Hit the Road, Jack, and What Did I Say, he transformed American music forever. But while his talent was proudly on display, the intricacies of his romantic life were kept largely behind closed doors. Charles was legally blind by age 7 and raised in poverty circumstances that shaped both his work ethic and emotional detachment. Throughout his life, he married twice, first to Eileen Williams in 1951, a short-lived union, then to Della Beatrice Howard Robinson in 1955, with whom he had 3 children. They divorced after 22 years of marriage. Yet Charles's personal life extended far beyond these official relationships. By the time of his death in 2004, it was publicly known that he had fathered 12 children with 10 different women. Several of these relationships remained undisclosed during his lifetime, only coming to light after legal proceedings surrounding his estate. He reportedly provided financial support to his children, but kept many of the romantic relationships with their mothers private. Known for his charm and charisma, Charles maintained multiple long-term affairs, concurrently, often while touring. Some of these women were part of his musical circle, while others remained completely anonymous to the public. Despite his openness in interviews about using drugs and being unfaithful, he rarely identified the women involved, and no partner outside his marriages ever shared her story publicly during his life. Ray Charles died at 73 from liver disease. Though his public image was bold and unfiltered, his deepest relationships were handled with extreme discretion. The world knew his genius, but the full scope of his love life remains as mysterious as the blues in his music. Bobby Womack. Bobby Womack's life was as bold and raw as his music. with hits like Across 110th Street, If You Think You're Lonely Now, and Woman's Gotta Have It. He channeled pain and passion into gritty, soulful masterpieces. But beyond the mic, Womack lived a controversial and emotionally tangled life, one that included hidden love affairs and lifelong secrecy. Perhaps the most shocking chapter of his romantic history began in 1965, when shortly after the death of soul legend Sam Cooke Womack married Cooke's widow Barbara Campbell. The marriage stunned the music world, as Womack had been Cooke's protege and close friend. The backlash was intense. Cooke's fans and even Womack's own family were outraged. But that marriage, as public as it was, didn't reflect the many secretive relationships he carried throughout his life. Womack admitted to numerous extramarital affairs, but the identities of many of the women involved were never publicly disclosed. Some were believed to be fellow musicians, others longtime companions who remained silent out of respect or fear. One of the most painful twists came when it was revealed that Womack had an affair with his stepdaughter, Linda Barbara's daughter, from her marriage to Sam Cooke, leading to the dissolution of his marriage. Later in life, Womack continued to be romantically linked to women whose names rarely surfaced in the media. Even as his health declined due to diabetes, prostate cancer, and Alzheimer's disease, he maintained a level of privacy about his relationships. Bobby Womack died in 2014 at the age of 70. Though he lived loudly and sang with raw intensity, many of his romantic connections remain a mystery deeply entwined in scandal, but forever hidden in the shadows of soul music history. Keith Sweat. Keith Sweat rose to fame as one of the leading voices of the new jack swing era, blending sensuality with rhythm in hits like Nobody Twisted and Make It Last Forever. His smooth voice and suave image made him a household name in the late 80s and 90s, but unlike his seductive lyrics, his real-life romances were often cloaked in secrecy. Sweat was married to the Real Housewives of Atlanta star Lisa Wu from 1992 to 2002, and the couple had 2 sons together. After their divorce, he kept his private life away from the spotlight. While many artists capitalized on public romances for fame, Sweat did the opposite. He rarely discussed partners in interviews and was almost never photographed in romantic settings. In the early 2000s, he quietly married Jillian L. Spear, though very little is known about their relationship or separation. Despite being a sex symbol, Sweat maintained a low profile, creating space for rumors of secret affairs. Industry insiders and fans have long speculated that he maintained intimate relationships with women he met while on tour or through his work, but none were confirmed publicly. Sweat's music often reflected heartbreak, longing, and emotional turmoil, emotions he rarely spoke about directly. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he avoided tabloid scandals, but whispers of hidden girlfriends and longtime lovers persisted throughout his career. As of now, Sweat has remained tight-lipped about his romantic life. No tell-all books, no public revelations, just a catalog of love songs that leave fans wondering how much was inspired by real-life secrets. In a genre built on emotional transparency, Keith Sweat chose restraint, making him both alluring and enigmatic. For a man who wrote the soundtrack to so many private moments, it's no surprise he kept his own heart hidden until the end. Devontae Swing. As the creative force behind Jodeci, Devontae Swing, born Donald DeGrate Jr., redefined 90s R&B with his edgy production, sensual songwriting, and musical innovation. Behind mega hits like Forever My Lady and Come and Talk to Me, Devontae helped craft the sound of a generation. Yet while his music was public and celebrated, his private life was cloaked in silence, sparking decades of speculation. Unlike his bandmates who often embraced fame with confidence, Devontae became increasingly reclusive. Rarely granting interviews and virtually invisible on social media, he shielded his personal affairs with extreme caution. While fans knew him as a smooth ladies' man on stage, no romantic partners were ever publicly confirmed. His name was never attached to celebrity flings, high-profile relationships, or public breakups, an unusual feat in the world of R&B. Behind the scenes, however, insiders whispered about secret relationships. Some alleged he had long-term partners within the music industry, possibly other artists or background vocalists, but their identities were never made public. During the height of Jodeci's fame, Devante was known to disappear for stretches of time, fueling rumors of romantic escapades far from the spotlight. Substance abuse struggles and internal group tensions led to Jodeci's hiatus in the early 2000s. Devante's erratic behavior was noted by peers, and many speculated that personal heartbreak or unspoken relationships contributed to his mental and emotional decline. As of today, Devante Swing's romantic history remains largely undocumented. No partner ever stepped forward with a public story. No memoir has revealed his secrets. For someone who wrote deeply intimate music about love loss and desire, he left fans with more questions than answers. His silence offstage stands in stark contrast to the emotional intensity of his music, leaving his love life one of the most enduring mysteries in R&B history. Tina Turner. Tina Turner was the definition of resilience. With her fiery voice and electric stage presence, she broke barriers with classics like Proud Mary, What's Love Got to Do With It, and Private Dancer. Her legacy as the queen of rock and roll is undisputed, but beneath her public strength, Tina also held parts of her heart in quiet reserve, especially after escaping a famously abusive marriage. Turner's marriage to Ike Turner, both musical and personal, was violent and traumatic. After leaving him in 1976, she spent years rebuilding her life and career, eventually rising to even greater solo success. But when it came to love, Tina became guarded. She kept her personal life tightly controlled, refusing to let past pain define her future. In the late 1980s, she quietly began a relationship with German music executive Erwin Bach. Despite their deep bond, she rarely discussed him in interviews. The couple married in 2013 after 27 years together, choosing a private life in Switzerland, far from the paparazzi and public eye. Their love was profound, but Tina chose serenity over spectacle, only offering rare glimpses into their intimacy. Before Bach, there were whispers of other suitors during her solo rise, private romances with fellow musicians and associates that she never confirmed. Even in her autobiography, Tina left many personal details out, emphasizing emotional growth over relationship gossip. She died peacefully in 2023 at age 83, surrounded by family after a long illness. Until the very end, she remained a picture of dignity. Tina Turner didn't need to flaunt her love stories, they were hers to protect. For a woman who once sang about surviving the worst of heartbreak, her final years were spent in quiet companionship, proving that some of the truest loves don't need the spotlight to shine. Minnie Riperton. Minnie Riperton possessed one of the most ethereal voices in R&B history. Her ability to reach the whistle register with grace and power made her signature song, Lovin' You, a timeless classic. Though she left a lasting legacy in music, her personal life was far more understated, and some chapters of her love story remain quietly tucked away. Riperton was married to producer and songwriter Richard Rudolph. Together, they had 2 children, one of whom is actress and comedian Maya Rudolph. Their professional and personal relationship appeared harmonious, with Richard co-writing and producing many of Minnie's most cherished songs. Yet despite the couple's high visibility in the industry, Minnie was intensely private about her inner world. Rumors have lingered about Riperton possibly having emotional or romantic connections outside her marriage, especially during her early career in the late 1960s and early 70s. While no verified extramarital relationships have ever been confirmed, some close to the artist have suggested that she had deep personal bonds that remained hidden from public view. These whispers were always treated with respect, given the couple's dignified image and Minnie's focus on family and artistry. Diagnosed with breast cancer in 1976, Minnie bravely continued performing and recording until her passing in 1979 at just 31. During her illness, she became one of the first celebrities to publicly discuss breast cancer, becoming a spokeswoman for the American Cancer Society. But even in those vulnerable moments, she kept her romantic life sacred, never indulging the public with gossip or emotional disclosures. Riperton's songs often touched on longing connection and spiritual love feelings that may have been inspired by more than what met the eye. She sang with her soul yet guarded her heart, leaving fans to wonder if there were secret stories behind that unforgettable voice. Alicia Keys. Alicia Keys arrived on the music scene with extraordinary talent and poise. Her 2001 debut album, Songs in a Minor, catapulted her to stardom, earning her 5 Grammy Awards in a single night. Blending classical piano with soulful vocals, she became a voice of empowerment. But while her lyrics spoke openly of love and vulnerability, Alicia herself remained guarded, particularly when it came to her personal relationships before fame. Before marrying producer Swizz Beatz, Alicia was linked to Carrie Crucial Brothers, her longtime musical collaborator. Their creative chemistry fueled early hits, but their romantic relationship was never fully defined in public. Alicia neither confirmed nor denied the depth of their involvement, choosing to focus interviews on her music and growth. Her relationship with Swizz Beatz sparked controversy, as he was reportedly still entangled in a previous marriage when their connection began. The couple eventually married in 2010 and have since built a family and philanthropic empire together. Despite their public bond, Alicia has consistently drawn clear lines between her art and her private life, rarely addressing rumors or past loves. Over the years, fans and media speculated about possible secret relationships during her rise to fame. From fellow musicians to industry figures, names floated but were never validated. Alicia's choice to keep those years out of the spotlight only deepened curiosity. Her songs, often filled with emotional longing and introspection, led some to believe they were inspired by personal chapters she chose not to reveal. Now, a vocal advocate for mental health, self-love, and authenticity, Alicia Keys continues to be an open book in spirit, if not in biography. Whatever romances she left unspoken, they live on in her melodies. For a woman so emotionally transparent in her music, the silence surrounding her early love life remains part of her mystique. Diana Ross. Diana Ross dazzled the world with her elegance, charisma, and voice that helped define the Motown era. From her early success with the Supremes to her commanding solo career with hits like Ain't No Mountain High Enough and Endless Love, Ross became a cultural icon. But while her public life sparkled with fame, her romantic past contained deeply private chapters, ones she never fully disclosed. Ross was married twice, first to music executive Robert Ellis Silberstein, with whom she had 2 daughters, and later to Norwegian shipping magnate Arne Naas Jr., with whom she had 2 sons. Though both relationships were high profile, Diana was famously discreet about the emotional details behind them. Even her friendship-turned-romance with Motown founder Berry Gordy, whom she had daughter Rhonda with, was not openly acknowledged for years. Beyond these known relationships, Diana Ross was frequently linked to powerful men in and outside the entertainment world. Yet many of these romantic ties were never officially confirmed. Industry insiders long whispered about a small circle of influential figures, politicians, producers, even royalty with whom Ross was romantically connected, though she never addressed these claims publicly. Her jet-set lifestyle and guarded persona made it easy for her to keep romantic ties under wraps. Even in biographies and authorized documentaries, Diana offered little insight into her innermost emotional world. Unlike many of her peers, she never sought validation through public relationships. Her silence was a form of control. As of today, no tell-all partner has come forward, and no secret memoirs have surfaced. Diana Ross chose to let her music, fashion, and poise speak louder than any tabloid headline. Her hidden romances remain as untouchable as her legend, a queen who ruled the stage but kept her heart behind palace walls. Prince Rogers Nelson. Prince was more than an R&B star, he was a musical revolution. With genre-bending albums like Purple Rain 1999 and Sign of the Times, he defied labels, embracing funk, soul, rock, and pop with fearless creativity. His love songs dripped with seduction and spiritual yearning, yet his real-life romances were cloaked in mystery and myth, often kept hidden until after his passing. Prince had 2 documented marriages, first to dancer Mayte Garcia in 1996, and later to Canadian businesswoman Manuela Testolini in 2001. Both relationships eventually ended in divorce. Despite these public unions, Prince maintained a level of romantic mystique unmatched by his contemporaries. Known for his intense privacy, he often forbade associates from discussing his personal affairs, even under legal agreements. Throughout his career, he was linked to a constellation of famous women: Vanity, Sheila E., Susanna Melvoin, Kim Basinger, Carmen Electra. Yet few details about these relationships were ever verified. What the public saw was surface level. What lay beneath was controlled by Prince himself, who once said, "I don't talk about my personal life because it takes the mystery away." Even more elusive were the whispers of unacknowledged lovers, intimate companions whose names never made it to the tabloids. Some former bandmates later hinted at long-term relationships with women far removed from the spotlight, suggesting Prince valued emotional privacy as fiercely as he guarded his musical legacy. When he passed away in 2016 from an accidental overdose, no long-term partner or spouse stood by in the public eye. His estate was left to distant relatives, and his deepest romantic bonds, if any still remained, were never disclosed. Prince was the ultimate enigma, emotionally raw in his lyrics, but emotionally sealed in real life. He sang of love with unmatched passion, but his greatest love stories may have been ones the world was never meant to hear. Teddy Pendergrass. Teddy Pendergrass was the embodiment of R&B sensuality. With hits like Turn Off the Lights, Close the Door, and Love TKO, he became an icon of romance in the 1970s and 80s. Women swooned over his smoldering voice and commanding presence, and he quickly rose to fame as one of the first male R&B singers to headline shows tailored exclusively for female audiences. But while his music was a masterclass in intimacy, Teddy's real-life love affairs were often kept far from public view. In the early 80s, Pendergrass was involved in a devastating car accident that left him paralyzed from the chest down. Though his public appearances became less frequent, whispers about his private relationships never ceased. Despite being seen as a ladies' man, Teddy guarded his personal life tightly following the accident. He married Karen Still in 1987, but details about the relationship were sparse and mostly absent from interviews or media coverage. One of the most mysterious parts of his romantic history came in the form of unconfirmed relationships. In a rare post-accident interview, Pendergrass revealed he had a relationship with a high-profile Hollywood actress, though he refused to name her. The secrecy only fueled rumors of hidden romances with powerful women in entertainment and politics, connections never confirmed but often hinted at. Pendergrass passed away in 2010 from respiratory failure at the age of 59. No partner or secret lover ever publicly came forward with personal stories. Despite his image as a heartthrob, his emotional life remains a guarded chapter. The man who gave voice to desire left this world with his deepest loves kept sacred, proving that even icons of sensuality can carry untold stories behind the spotlight. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was the most recognizable entertainer on earth. With record-breaking albums like Thriller Bad and Dangerous, he became the face of pop music across continents. But as his fame soared, so did his instinct for privacy, especially when it came to his romantic relationships. While millions obsessed over his performances, few ever truly understood who he loved. Publicly, Jackson's romantic life included 2 marriages, first to Lisa Marie Presley in 1994, and later to Debbie Rowe, the mother of his 2 eldest children. Both unions received immense media attention but were short-lived. He fathered 3 children, yet questions lingered about the nature of those relationships and whether deeper, more personal connections existed beyond public record. In 2016, a memoir by former Epic Records employee Shauna Mangatal, Michael and Me. The untold story of Michael Jackson's secret romance claimed the two shared a quiet, long-standing relationship in the 1990s. Though the book stirred headlines, its claims remained unverified by Jackson's estate or family. The King of Pop never confirmed it publicly, nor did he address countless rumors tying him to other women, or controversially to men. Jackson was famously private and shielded by a tight inner circle. Those who knew him described him as deeply emotional but cautious, often forming strong attachments behind closed doors, but never risking exposure. He was rarely photographed in intimate settings and discouraged speculation with carefully curated appearances. When he died in 2009 at age 50, the world mourned an unparalleled talent, but also speculated on what was left unsaid. Michael Jackson's music explored themes of loneliness, longing, and love. Yet the real identity of his most treasured companion, if there was one, remains unknown. He captivated the world on stage, but offstage, the man behind the moonwalk took his most personal truths with him. Ruth Brown. Ruth Brown was often called Miss Rhythm, and for good reason. In the 1950s, she helped shape the sound of early R&B, delivering powerful tracks like Mama, He Treats Your Daughter Mean and Teardrops from My Eyes. Her success at Atlantic Records was so profound that the label earned the nickname The House That Ruth Built. Yet despite her prominence, Brown's personal life remained largely out of the limelight, her love life especially so. Throughout her career, Ruth experienced multiple hardships, including career setbacks, health struggles, and financial instability. But perhaps most concealed were the romantic entanglements that defined much of her emotional world. She was married more than once, but few of those relationships made headlines. Close friends and biographers have alluded to several quiet affairs, some of which allegedly lasted for years without ever becoming public knowledge. After stepping away from the spotlight for much of the 1960s and 70s, Brown made a celebrated comeback in the 1980s, winning a Tony Award for Black and Blue and a Grammy for her blues recordings. Even in her Renaissance years, she remained fiercely private. Only after her death in 2006 did murmurs of a long-term secret partner surface, someone she had reportedly shared her later years with away from public attention. Despite singing boldly about heartbreak, infidelity, and womanhood, Ruth Brown maintained a veil of privacy over her own experiences. The emotional resonance in her voice hinted at real pain and deep love, but she chose not to reveal the identities behind those feelings. In the end, her romantic story, much like her contributions to R&B, went underappreciated in her lifetime, only truly understood when it was too late to ask her directly. Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy is best known as the mastermind behind Motown Records, a musical empire that launched the careers of legends like Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, the Supremes, and the Jackson 5. A producer, songwriter, and visionary executive, Gordy shaped the cultural landscape of American music. But beyond the boardroom and recording studio, he carried out a personal life marked by discretion, especially in matters of the heart. Gordy was married 3 times and fathered 8 children with 6 women. One of the most publicly known relationships was with Diana Ross, the lead singer of the Supremes, with whom he had a daughter, Rhonda. Though the relationship was an open secret within Motown, it was never fully addressed by either party during its most intimate phase. Even today, many details of their romance remain unexplored. In addition to Ross, Gordy was rumored to have had romantic liaisons with other artists and industry insiders within the Motown circle. Some of these connections were said to last for years, built on mutual respect and deep emotional intimacy, yet kept out of public view to avoid disrupting business dynamics or public perceptions. Whether out of professionalism or personal choice, Gordy rarely acknowledged these partnerships publicly. His authoritative control over Motown extended to managing image and narrative both of his artists and himself. As a result, his romantic relationships were often buried beneath contracts, tour schedules, and press releases. Even those closest to him described Gordy as charming yet guarded, unwilling to reveal too much of his inner life. Now in his 90s, Berry Gordy remains a music industry legend. But his most enduring love stories may not be found in liner notes or autobiographies. They exist instead in whispers, protected by a man who knew that sometimes the greatest hits are the ones never released. Behind the fame, the lights, and the legendary performances, these R&B icons carried secrets they never intended to share. Their music revealed passion, but their true loves remained hidden until death unlocked the silence. Were they protecting their legacy, or were they denied the freedom to live and love openly? Let us know what you think in the comments. Which of these untold love stories shocked you the most? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence, where we honor the truth behind the icons. The conversation is just beginning.